Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to unpack a couple of really fundamental AWS security tools. These are critical for keeping your cloud stuff, locked down, but also actually usable.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking NAT gateways and Bastion hosts, key pieces for secure networking in your VPC, your virtual private cloud.
Exactly. So let's maybe start with some analogies to make it click. A NAT gateway. Think of it like a special one-way delivery door for a private office.
Okay, I like that.
Your resources inside that private space, they can order supplies, internet data for updates, API calls, whatever, and get them delivered back. But crucially, nobody from the outside can just wander in through that door.
Right, it only works for stuff initiated from inside.
Precisely. And then there's the Bastion host. That's more like the secure receptionist's desk out in the public lobby.
The checkpoint.
Exactly. Before you can get into those private offices, you have to check in there first, securely prove you're allowed in, usually with SSH or RDP.
Makes sense. Two different kinds of doors, really.
Okay, so security connectivity. That's clear. But maybe frame it for the listener. What's the core problem these two things solve together? Why are they, indispensable if you're building seriously on AWS?
Well, yeah, it's how they complement each other. That's the key.
Yeah.
They tackle two sides of the same coin. Secure outbound access for your private resources and secure inbound access for you, the administrator.
Okay, break that down a bit. Security first.
So the NAT gateway, its main job, security-wise, is keeping those private subnets properly isolated, shielding your sensitive stuff like databases or backend apps from just any old inbound traffic from the internet. It's a basic but vital perimeter defense.
And the Bastion host security role.
That's all about controlled access. Instead of potentially having, dozens of ways to SSH or RDP directly into your private network, which is a huge attack surface, you funnel all that administrative access through one single hardened point, the Bastion host. Much easier to monitor and lock down.
Right, one door to watch instead of 20.
Exactly. But it's not just about locking things down. It's also about enabling necessary function, right? That NAT gateway is what lets your private resources, say that database with customer data, still reach out when it needs to.
Like for updates.
Yeah, critical software updates, security patches, maybe talking to external APIs it relies on. It lets them do that essential stuff without ever being directly exposed to the internet.
Okay, so give me a quick example scenario.
Sure. Imagine a company, right? They've got a database, super sensitive, sitting in a private subnet. It needs to download security patches regularly. That's NAT gateway's job, lets it fetch those patches safely.
Okay.
Then the IT team needs to manage that database sometimes, maybe run some diagnostics. They don't connect directly. They connect first to the Bastion host in the public subnet and then jump from there to the database.
So the Bastion handles the admin access.
Exactly. Secure and practical. That's the goal.
That practicality point is huge. But, are there common mistakes people make? Maybe thinking a NAT gateway does more than it does. Like, does it act like a full firewall?
That's a really good point, yeah. A common slip-up is thinking the NAT gateway provides broad inbound protection, like a web application firewall, or even just general firewall rules for your instances. It absolutely does not.
Okay, clarify that.
Its job is purely outbound connections and the return traffic specifically for those connections. It just translates aggresses and passes traffic back and forth for sessions initiated from inside. It isn't inspecting traffic for threats or filtering general inbound stuff. You still need security groups and potentially other firewalls for that.
Got it. So it's not a firewall replacement. Good distinction. All right, we've got the why. Let's get into the how. How does a NAT gateway actually do its thing?
Okay, so under the hood, a NAT gateway itself lives in a public subnet in your VPC. That's important because it needs access to the internet gateway to reach the internet.
Right, it needs to be able to see outside.
Exactly. Now, your resources, maybe EC2 instances in a private subnet, they need to get out. The route table basically says, hey, for internet traffic, send it over to the NAT gateway.
So they point to the NAT gateway.
Correct. When that traffic hits the NAT gateway, it does something called Source Network Address Translation, or SNAT. It swaps out the private IP address of your instance with its own single public IP address.
The translation part.
Yep. It sends the request out to the internet using its public IP. When the response comes back, the NAT gateway remembers which internal instance made the original request and sends the reply back to the correct private IP.
And crucially,
it blocks any unsolicited inbound traffic. If someone on the internet just tries to connect to the NAT gateway's public IP, it gets dropped. Nothing gets through unless it's a reply to an outgoing request. It's really like that secure mailbox analogy. You can send letters out and replies come back to your box, but nobody can just walk into your apartment through the mailbox slot.
Okay, that makes sense. So switching gears to the Bastion host, you said it's about consolidating access, making it easier to defend just one point.
Precisely. The Bastion host itself is typically just an EC2 instance, a virtual server.
Yeah.
But it's placed in a public subnet, so it gets a public IP address that you can reach from the internet.
Okay.
You connect to that public IP, usually with SSH if it's Linux, or RDP if it's Windows, and this is key. You lock down who can connect to the Bastion using security groups.
The virtual firewalls.
Right. So you might say, only allow SSH connections from my office IP address range. Very specific.
Okay, so I get into the Bastion securely. Then what?
Then, once you're logged into the Bastion host, you use it as a jumping-off point. You initiate a new connection from the Bastion host to your actual target resource, like that database server in the private subnet.
And how does the private resource allow that?
Because its security group is configured to only allow incoming connections, say SSH or database connections, from the private IP address of the Bastion host. It won't accept connections from anywhere else.
Ah, okay. So it's a two-step process. Connect to Bastion, then jump from Bastion to private resource.
Exactly. It's like that security checkpoint analogy again. Show your ID, connect to Bastion with restricted IPs, get into the secure lobby, you're logged into the Bastion, then use your internal pass, connect from Bastion's trusted IP to access the private offices, your internal resources.
Okay, pulling it all together then. How do they complement each other in a typical setup?
Well, you see how they handle opposite directions, right? The NAT Gateway is all about secure outbound connections from your private stuff to the internet, letting them call out safely.
Right, for updates and APIs.
And the Bastion host handles secure inbound connections from you, the administrator, to those private resources, letting you call in safely when you need to manage things.
And they often live side by side.
Very often, yes. Both the NAT Gateway and the Bastion host typically reside in your public subnets. They act as the secure intermediaries, the gatekeepers, for all the sensitive stuff you keep protected in your private subnets. And both rely heavily on security groups for that fine-grained traffic control.
It really is like that company analogy you mentioned, the delivery door, NAT gateway for supplies coming in, well, replies coming in after ordering out, and the security desk, Bastion host, checking IDs for visitors coming in.
Perfectly put. One handles automated outbound needs, the other handles controlled human inbound access.
So really, getting a handle on NAT gateways and Bastion hosts, it empowers you, the listener, to build cloud networks that are not just functional, but actually, properly protected. They're really foundational for secure AWS setups.
Absolutely. They are core building blocks, which actually leads to a final thought to maybe leave you with.
Go for it.
Knowing how these tools create distinct layers of defense, controlling who and what can get in and out of your protected network zones, how might that make you rethink the security of your entire digital footprint? Not just in the cloud, but, everywhere. How are you managing those boundaries?